invited into you. So, it's one of those things. Again, our mindset is everything. We hear the word snapping turtle, automatically it snaps, it bites your toes off, it's going to, attack you.
Take
it snaps. Yeah, and then it's going to be worse if it's an alligator snapping turtle, because now it's an alligator and it snaps.
And it's a snapping turtle.
And so, how words are, a venomous snake or a hognose snake. Well, hognose sound cute. It's a venomous snake.
It's
still cute.
You can change the naming, but you can't change what it is.
A flower, yeah.
And like with the snapping turtles, like you said, they're not going to come after you. The snapping your toes off. Snapping turtles are so easy if you know what you're doing.
There.
They know you're there.
They
leave
swim
them
away.
alone. If you're trying to move them for any reason, like moving them off the road, just grab them behind the shell. Don't grab by the tail. And you'll be fine. Alligator snapping turtles, it's the same way. You can grab them up by the head. If it's an alligator snapping turtle, common snapping turtle will grab your hand,
they can
come right back and grab you. But at the same time, it's like, it's not doing it to hurt you. If you're messing with the animal, it's doing it to defend itself.
Yeah, it's scared. It's scared of you.
And I think that's a big thing, like you were saying with your Happy Meal stuff. You get to teach kids and inspire them. Yeah. And I think it starts when you're younger. Like you said, adults are set in their ways. I started catching garter snakes and stuff when I was young, and I've kept leopard geckos, which I'm now breeding since I was like 7 years old. So 14 years of keeping them, and now 2 or 3 years of breeding them, and it's just all, now it's like, ooh, I want a tegu when I have the space, I've just been inspired by all of these different things, but it started young with me.
Mm-hmm.
My mother would wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and bring in the frog she found out on the porch.
Oh, you're lucky. My mother's scared of animals. We couldn't have any animals. Fish is what got me started. And because of fish, I learned Greek and Latin. I learned biology, ichthyology, geology, botany, chemistry, everything, geology, geopolitics. Everything just led to one thing to the other because I was just that type of kid. I was inquisitive. And even outside as a kid, I'd sit there and look at a tree and go, what kind of tree is that? And, why? Or why is this maple different than that maple? That's a maple and that's a maple, but why is this one a silver maple and why is this one a striped maple? And so I was always curious and stuff. So my mother never would bring anything in, oh Lord knows, and I would sneak stuff into the house, because I like salamanders and snakes and typical kid. And of course I never had the proper containers because we weren't allowed to keep them, so I'd find something, put it in there. Of course, so we get out.
We didn't. Cooler.
We didn't have a lot of little totes and stuff like nowadays. It's a throwaway site. You can get. So it was like boxes and but anyhow, we things would get out, and then my mom would get very mad and upset, and she looked at me one day and said, finally, she said, when you're old enough to have your own place, you can have all the animals you want.
And
it's like, yeah, here I am with 200 animals or more, and so.
But with that being said, you were lucky enough to keep that up through until you were able to do it, when a lot of parents might have been like, nope, let's squash it here.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, I'm 53. I'm going to be 53. Anyhow, I'm over 50. And a lot of people, I'm Mr.Drew, and I've always been Mr.Drew. And it's like, no, I haven't. I had a sensible job. I had this and that. I didn't get to hear till much later in life when I could, I was, I'm going to say, loosely responsible. When I was responsible and, I was stable enough and, family life was stable and, there's a lot of things. So I really didn't get to the Mr.Drew thing until much later. And then it just took off like wildfire. Like I said, I've been involved in a lot of different things. But the Mr.Drew part, where I became this, it's weird to say I'm a celebrity.
Maine wildlife celebrity.
Yeah,
but that's pretty much the case.
Yeah, it's local celebrity. It's really weird for me sometimes, and it's weird because I can go to godforsaken towns. I shouldn't say godforsaken towns. Little obscure towns is what I mean. Little obscure towns are someplace where I think nobody's gonna know me, and then somewhere there'll be a kid of 50 people. Or I pulled into gas stations on the way to shows someplace where it's 2-3 hours away, and somebody goes, hey, because they see my van, it's got the Mr.Drew on it, and then, oh my goodness, I saw you on 207, or oh my goodness, I follow you, and it's like, oh yeah, hi, it's like, it's so weird. I mean, it makes me smile, but it makes me go like, how did I get here? Yeah, how did I get here? I mean, I just don't get it. And again, I mean, it feels good, but there's days I sit there and go, I guess I don't know if I'm ready for it.
I'm not sure. And
people keep saying to me, you should get your own YouTube channel. It's like, I don't have time for that.
More work. You're taking
yeah,
care of
oh my goodness, editing and planning, and I see, that's great if I had 100 employees, or volunteers, and that's, but I don't have that, and I don't want that. I don't want to get to that point that I'm so big that I like getting my hands dirty.
Yeah,
I like picking up the shit.
You want to be able to still work with what you started with. Yeah. You don't want to be backlogged in so much.
Yeah.
Paperwork or editing, like you said, or anything. Like these videos, I might edit a little bit before I throw them up, but they're probably just gonna stay these off the cuff videos that we've done today. Just because I'm kind of the same way. That's
time consuming.
It's time consuming. That's time I have to take away from my animals.
Yeah.
Or my family.
I was gonna say, don't forget that.
I'm
girlfriend
girlfriend or whatever I'm doing. It's time I have to take away from doing all the stuff I have to do. Where I can just leave it as this and go, if you liked it, you'll like it. But either way,
and that's the thing too. Is like, I mean, with me, we had 3 children. They're pretty much grown up and going, and we're thinking, and then we adopted 3 more. And our youngest, I mean, we have special needs children and stuff, and now, and it's like this, like my wife helps out here, but she's so busy, running kids to appointments, and of course, COVID schooling and all this and that. So it's kind of like, oh, she's helping me. Oh, she can't help me because she's busy, and so you still need to take time. That's why in that whole YouTube thing, I'm like, no, I don't want it. And my wife said, you should talk to the Maine Herp Society and get more people involved. And I'm like, if I get more people involved in the Maine Herp Society, it means more work for me to do, and I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. So it's really weird,
Yeah, and like we were saying, you become kind of this local celebrity. Even when I'm at work, I've had people that are talking about how they came before COVID. They were like, I brought my nephew or my son or whatever to Mr.Drew, and it's like, I know him. And we sit there and talk, and they're like, how do you know him? And I've been lucky enough getting into the breeding side that I've known you for a couple years now. Yeah. And I've been lucky enough to see what you do, and you've been kind enough to give me the time to come do this stuff with you. And that's one thing I will say, good thing I will say about the hobby that some people may not know is it's not necessarily, the way I look at it is it's not the money, it's the time for the animals, because my big thing is I want my animals to go where I know they're going to be cared of, or I'll keep them. I don't have to make a sale. I do this because I love to do it. Yeah. I don't have to sell you anything.
And that's the difference. Like, I owned a pet store, and I thought when I was younger then, I thought, how cool, I'm going to a pet store, and I'm going to do this. And our motto was, and we still carry that motto to some degree, is education's our specialty, and we're going to give out information, and we're going to share stuff, and we're going to help people succeed, and, thrive with their aquariums, with the concept that the more they learn, the more they're going to want, and they're going to come see me. And this was all pre-box stores, and it was good in the beginning, and then Petco moved in, PetSmart came in, all these big box stores came in, and they were sale, flashy, big, running prices that you couldn't meet. And, so people would come to me for the free advice and go to the box store to buy this stuff. And it's like, and then the hassles dealing with the public, because you're there to make a living, so you have to sell things, and you can't sit there and say to somebody, I don't want to sell to you. Because then, this was even pre-internet, and, word gets around. Word of mouth is the fastest thing, even before the internet. If you were being a jerk to people, believe me, everybody knew. Yeah, everybody heard about it one way or another. And so you had to sell things. And then I started going, God, that animal's going to die. Oh, God.
You can tell.
Yeah,
it's not being judgy.
No, it is, but it isn't. It's not. I'm not. I'm not. And there's been times that I said that and I was pleasantly surprised and wrong. And I've even said that to people.
You're the first to admit it. I thought you were going to kill him.
Actually,
but hey.
I've done that. I've gone to people and said, you know what? Over the years you've been coming here, and when I first met you, I thought for certain you were going to kill everything, and that you and I look at him. I apologize for my thoughts, you know, even though I never said it to you, I'm apologizing to you because
For thinking
you've
it.
proven me wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can't judge people, and you know, so I try to stay very neutral. But you know, still, I was in business to sell things. Now I'm on the receiving end. I'm rescue, and like I was saying earlier how I can tell what Petco or PetSmart was selling 6 months ago
Massive
because
influx.
I get if they're selling big sales on ball pythons and they're pushing them out the door. 6 months from now, I'm going to get a crap load of ball pythons, and not color morphs, mind you, just plain old ball pythons that you know, and or bearded dragons that come in with metabolic bone disorder, or you know, I'm going to get an influx of whatever they were selling cheap, and it happens all the time because people are impulsive, and as I was saying earlier to you, pet stores don't educate like they should. It's about the sale, and I get it. You got a business to run. But now, people, do you adopt out your animals? If I feel like it. If I feel it's a good fit.
If I know you're
If
able
I
to.
know, I'll move them out, you know, a lot of the illegal stuff out of Maine, through the expos and stuff. And sometimes I'll move out the common stuff because I know at the expos people are going there looking for reptiles.
Yeah.
Where if I just put out there, I have a bunch of bearded dragons, oh, I'll take one, and then the animal's no better off than it was before it came to me. You know, so, is there someone here?
Yeah.
Hey, Amy!
I'm coming.
But with that being said, there's a lot of, and I'm sure, I'll be honest, I'm sure when we first met, I knew my way around leopard geckos for the most part, but some of the other species I was like, what? And I've taken the time, you've helped a lot, and I've taken the time to learn, and I've grown better as a keeper for a lot of species. But with that being said, like you were saying, there's some stuff you're just looking and going, it's not that I don't like you, but I'm in it for the animal.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying with the bearded dragons and stuff, sometimes people get these impulse buys at a pet store. And with that being said, on the flip side, you can impulse buy at a pet store and pay more than what you would pay at an expo.
Yeah.
You can go pay $100 for what they consider a fancy bearded dragon at a pet store and go pay $20 for it at an expo. And that gives you the time to do your research and stuff.
Well, the thing is with dealing with breeders too, whether it's an expo or not. I mean, you know, I always suggest people go to the breeders first. One, they're breeding because they love that species. Two, they can tell you everything about that baby that they might sell you because they bred it, they knew when it hatched or when it was born, and they know everything about it. They know the parents, they know the lineage, they can tell you a lot of stuff. Pet stores can't do that. And not only that, if you're an expo, the beautiful thing about expos are, some people are there just to sell. Some are there to make money. That's all. They're breeding this because that's the hottest thing right now, and that's what they're going to make money on. And some breeders are there because they care. And the nice thing is you can walk around the expo and talk. You know, there's 50, 60 guys there selling leopard geckos.
But you can walk around
And you can just walk up to a table and listen how they're talking to another person who might be interested. Or, you know, or if you ask a question, even if I always tell people, ask a question you know the answer to.
See how they answer.
And see how they answer you. And this way here, you're going to, okay, this guy was being honest, or this guy didn't know what he was talking about, or this, just make sure you know the answer. But, and don't argue with them. Just say, oh, okay, thank you, and you just go on.
Walk away.
You know, it's kind of like being on social, just scroll by. If you don't like what they said, just keep scrolling, you know? It's the same thing at the expo. Just walk by. Just say, okay, I'm not going to deal with them. Something just rubbed me wrong about how they handled me, or how I heard them talking to other people.
And that's the thing.
And you can also get, and when you go to a pet store, you have a choice of 1, 2, 3 animals, maybe 4 animals, maybe half a dozen animals. When you go to the expos, you've got thousands of animals throughout. Yeah, one table.
One table full, and then you've got 1,000 other tables that
and so you also get the choice of quality because you can look and look at this table and go, well, these don't look as good as the guy 3 tables down. And so you have a lot more options. So the expos is what I always tell people, because there are always people asking me, where can I get? I don't want to buy from a pet store. And I always tell people, you can't find a mom and pop shop, which is virtually impossible. You know, then, you know, go to the expos or go online and look up breeders. Just type in the name. But still, doing it online, you have to do your research.
You do.
And the thing is, too, is you got to look at time of year and shipping and what possibilities can go wrong. When you're at the expo, you're in control of that.
You're in control.
Yeah.
You've got a heated car that's got bringing your
put it
animal
in my
back.
shirt. Or
They run the expo in January, and it's cold.
Oh, yeah.
In New Hampshire, Maine, all of these New England areas, it's cold in January. We all know this. But we're still running the show, and you can be a little more cautious. Most breeders won't ship for that set period of the year. A lot of breeders, you have temperatures. If it's above this, below this, I'm not shipping to you.
And if they do ship at those times,
That's when you know you've got an issue.
Yeah.
Or like at the expo, it's kind of the same with the pet stores. It's not necessarily bashing, but I've walked around the expos. I've been helping friends, not necessarily vending myself, but I'll help friends. And I'll stop and talk to you, and I'll walk around and breeding leopard geckos. I know what to look for in leopard geckos, and I'll see someone selling a $5,000 animal that looks like it hatched a week ago, and you're like, that animal's probably gonna die.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily because the owner didn't take care of it. That breeder was selling an animal that might not have even ate yet for the first time, so it might never eat after all
that's
the
what
stress.
you see a lot of that from the pet stores because they have such a high demand to get the volume in. That they just tell the breeders, you give me as soon as they hatch, we want them. And whether it's a snake or a lizard or whatever, you're dealing with that the breeder doesn't even know if it's eaten yet. And so they're pushing them out, and then they get to the store, and, like with some snakes, they won't eat till they have their first shed, which could be several weeks to a month, or even longer. So they get into the store, oh yeah, we're feeding it frozen. That's their go-to. And then they get it home, and I get the phone calls all panicked saying it won't eat. I got it in the store, and it hasn't eaten since I got it, and blah blah blah. And they said they were feeding it frozen. It's like they probably never even fed it. They don't even know if it's eating. And that was one thing. The other thing I did in my store was we get something in, and we quarantined it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We made sure that it was eating. There was no parasites. And when, of course, I had my store, there was also a lot of wild caught. There was no such thing as captive bred leopard geckos or bearded dragons or ball pythons.
Import wild.
They were all imported wild. And like when ball pythons came in, there were no color morphs. There was no such thing. Kings and corns were starting to come out with color morphs back then. But the balls, there were no color morphs. And they came in direct from the wild, tick and mite ridden. Oh, they were terrible. And of course, internal parasites. And this was a time of Ebola, and we were like, no one knew anything about it. It was a new virus, and we're like, it comes from the ticks from Africa. Yeah. And so that was like one of my first, we get them in, and that's what today we're de-ticking, and this is what we're doing.
We're taking care of this animal.
Then they come in, and then the ball pythons come in, but they weren't used to eating domestic mice and rats.
Yeah, they're used to African soft furs.
And so we had to force feed every single one of them that came in. And you're sitting there with a wild-caught snake shoving food down its throat that it didn't want to eat. Yeah. And oh my, it was like looking back at that, and all these people are breeding these color morphs, and I'm like, well, you can thank me for that. Not necessarily me, but
you thank the people that brought them in. Yeah. And that's the good thing about the captive bred.
Well, and that's what
we have now.
Yeah, exactly. And it was well worth it now because we're no longer
we're not taking animals from the
wild. And that was the thing too. We had discussed with the state when we were talking about the 2017 law changes. Is they were like, well, if it's an endangered species in the wild, blah blah blah, and it's like, well, wait a minute, stop right there, because technically, your definition of endangered, whether it's ICUN or CITES or whatever, I mean, each country, and then there's on local levels, because like in Maine, the eastern box turtle is on the verge of extinction. It's Maine's rarest reptile, but in other states it's not. So it's locale specific. So we were talking about that, and we said technically, if you're going to base on that, that means ball pythons would fall into that category, but we don't wild catch them anymore.
Yeah.
They're all captive bred. I mean, not saying that it's impossible to get a wild caught one, but it's just rare because it's just so much easier nowadays. They're plentiful. Why would you want to go? It's not worth it.
Bearded dragons. It's illegal. It's been illegal since 1960 to export out of Australia.
Yeah. So every one you get are blue-tongued skinks. Well, not every blue-tongued skink, but yeah, bearded dragons definitely are all captive bred animals. You're not going to get a wild caught bearded. You can't. Australia has restrictions
very
in place.
Very strict rules.
Yeah. So I mean, there's been a lot of pros over the years, and so that's why one of my things. I always try to go to the breeder, get captive bred. But you have to be careful of the expos because there are some importers. You know, like
what we
Savannah
call
monitors.
flickers or
Yeah.
wild caught.
Savannah monitors is one that a lot of people, you see those cute little fat bellied babies in there, like $30, $35. And people are like, oh yeah.
This big.
Well, it's not even that. Those little fat bellied babies are usually parasite-ridden wild caughts, and they don't survive. You know, but then you could see somebody selling a little fat bellied Savannah captive bred one for $85, $95, $120.
Yep.
You know, but people are going to opt for the $30 one because it's cheaper. And it's not the same. It's apples and oranges. You got a wild caught animal that's going to probably die, and you have a captive bred animal that costs more because nobody's breeding them, and you're getting a healthier animal that's going to survive. So what do you want? I mean, not saying that all the wild caughts will die, or else we wouldn't have any. But you know, this is why when you're at the expos, you need to ask questions and you need to go around and don't just, you know, if you really want a Savannah monitor, that's fine, but find all of them and ask everybody. Talk to them, but don't just base it on is that wild caught or captive bred? Because they're not going to tell you. If they're wild caught, they're going to tell you it's captive bred. But at that price, no, it's not. Oh, somebody's bringing stuff in. Ooh. Thank you. Yep, just throw it on the floor there. Thank you. The barrier's up, so. Thank you very much, kind sir.
More food shipment.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
Yep. Yeah, there's a shortage, you know.
Oh yeah. It's funny because I can come here and get all of them from you, but I try and order online and they tell me I'm only allowed this amount per purchase.
It's well, you know, I found out through somebody who used to work at Petco, and as well as somebody who works at PetSmart, people who are managers and stuff. They both order from the same place, and this company pushes them out. But rather than have backup, if something happens, and this is what happens like a lot of times, is all of a sudden they'll have a massive disease go through and wipe out
a colony.
Their whole stock, and they end up, or not their whole stock, but a big portion of it, and so they can't keep up with the demand. And rather than having backups, well, okay, they can't survive, we're going to go here, they just tell everybody there's a shortage. And it's like, no, they just don't want to go to other suppliers.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow.
And like we were talking a little bit with the expos and asking questions and stuff, a big thing for me is I get to talk to so many people when I'm at the show, and even just talking is one of the best parts. And as a leopard gecko breeder, if you're looking for a leopard gecko, my suggestion for you, this is how I've done it, I get from breeders I know and trust and respect, but I want to be able to give you full lineage. I have a couple animals that I can tell you the parent's history, I can tell you where that breeder got it from, where that breeder got it from. I can go back a couple generations and say, he got it from her, who got it from him, who got it from her.
Sounds like a venereal disease.
It does, but I can trace it back to what I need it to be as much as I can. And I'm looking at, I won't ship or sell any of my animals under 15 grams because I know at 15 grams, they're more than likely going to survive.
Yeah.
Still. If they don't, I hate to say it, but more than likely it was on your end. If it's on my end, I'll admit it.
Yeah.
But I need to figure that out.
Well, and that's it.
It's
so
that
the other thing
start
about
on life.
That's what I always do. The other thing is with retail too, was one of those things is people would sit there and say to me, I bought this fish from you and it was sick. Then I'd always sit there and say, well, first of all, if you know it was sick, first of all, why did you buy it? Second of all, here's the tank it came out of, and all mine are fine, So, it's a lot of things that way too. That it was like retail. It's like I don't want to. I don't want to.
Honey, did you do the register yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, because I was coming to do the register, I was going to go to the bank.
Oh,
Because I asked you and you said no.
No, not last night you didn't ask me. The night before you did. But anyway, this is Drew's here. Just one of these little sites.
Oh, our critter bottles are here.
Oh, okay.
That sounds good.
Doesn't sound promising, does it?
Because they're
They're supposed to be plastic.
Yeah, they're plastic. That's not glass. Again, business going on.
As always.
What's today's date?
8. Oh yeah, with that. We've talked about the expos. We've talked about how you got here. And a little bit of a lot of people watching this. I'm sure you don't live in Maine, but you can kind of put some of this into perspective to find it in your
I didn't know.
to find it in your state. But your big thing is Maine woods, Maine waters, Maine animals. That's what you do here.
Yeah,
You want
that's
if it's
simple.
from
Yeah.
Maine, it stays in Maine. If it's not from
Well,
Maine,
It's
not necessarily stays in
Yeah,
Maine.
no,
but
no. It's not a. You know, some people might mistake that as a. I'm opposed to having exotics here. I'm not. If you can take care of it, and, you know, I'm all for it. You know, I have no problems with that. You know, if you want to breed, again, we're all for captive bred. I don't feel I need to because I'm a rescue. I don't need to add to the surplus population that I see out there. But yeah, when it comes to Maine woods, Maine waters, Maine animals, my kind of little slogan is because I don't want people releasing exotics into the wild. Now, Maine is a state where a lot of things can survive, but it's not only about surviving. I mean, some species, like we're dealing with red-eared sliders that we're finding in lakes and ponds in Maine that don't belong here. You know, we have 7 species of turtles. 4 of them are endangered or of special concern. So red-eared sliders can outcompete them. I've seen red-eared sliders rip apart snapping turtles.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, I don't want to see people releasing it. And that's the thing. Here, I take in animals that the Humane Society won't. It really comes down to that. If we don't do cute and fluffy, and that's all they do. So, you know, I don't want people sitting
you're
there
the
going,
other end.
yeah, I don't want people sitting there going, you know, well, it's going to have a better life if I just let it go. You know, especially with turtles. Turtles are the biggest ones. That people say, well, it'll be happier if I let it go with other turtles or,
Oh, no,
or
it's
whatever.
probably
It's
gonna
like,
die
yeah.
and
And,
introduce parasites and stuff.
and
to
that's the
captive.
other thing is by introducing, even if it won't survive in Maine, you know, Maine climate, you know, you release it in the summer, it will survive the summer. It can spread disease. It can spread, you know, parasites.